Well, that's what it sounds
No. Tony Khan, I didn't ask him to cheat. I'm not asking you to cheat. Brother, all I'm asking you to do is be on the right side of history. Okay? Now, the last thing I would want for you, Mikey, is to look back on the night and have any regrets, because looking at your face, I'm sure you can already think of one.
Baby,
Whoa, no, okay. Now, hold on. See this? Mike, we're gonna settle down. This right here is a blank check with your name on it. Okay? Think about it.
You're tuned into Too Sweet Elite with Andrew and AJ, presented by the AEP.
Welcome back to another exciting edition of Too Sweet Elite with your boy, Andrew and AJ, presented by the AEP. We are here for, 156 straight episodes, AJ. We've been at it for a while, but how you doing this week, brother?
I'm doing good. I'm a beach boy. I told you on Tuesday, and it's a gimmick that it's staying. Got my Hawaiian shirt. Went to the beach.
I want to see. I need a Hawaiian hat next. We need one of those little leis. You're getting there. You're almost dialed into the gimmick, but you're gonna need. You're gonna need to get it in there a little bit more for me to call you the beach boy. But I'm glad you're doing good, bro. I'm doing all right. Yeah. Chilling. You know, been busy working, catching up on some stuff with some schoolwork and whatnot. But as always, it was a good week of Dynamite. I was glad to get to sit down and enjoy that among everything else. But yeah, I'm doing well. I'm glad you're doing well. You were at the beach today. No fish and chips for you though. So
no,
a little bit disappointed. You're already falling off the gimmick, dude. That's what did you have today?
I had nachos.
Nachos is not a beach boy thing, man. Come on. See, I'm already disappointed, but it's all right. We'll get there. We'll get you there. Next time you got to go fishing for your own lunch. That's the beach boy thing right there, brother.
All right. I'll hold you to that.
Don't hold me to it. I'm holding you to it. Let's see what you got. Let's talk about AEW. The ratings this week were through the roof. 1.2 million people tuned into Dynamite this week. How crazy is that? I think we were kind of expecting that, right? But we didn't know what to expect. I was kind of
I was expecting it at first, and then the NXT rating came in and was like, 850,000? I was like, so Dynamite's probably going to be the same. Nope.
Yeah, that was impressive.
This is the most I've ever been like, fuck yeah, about the ratings. Like, yeah, AEW isn't a fad. It's proven now. We can break 1 million easy if you're not fucking running against us, and we can box with the big boys.
Yeah, that is what I would have to agree with you there. We'll have to see how it maintains, you know what I mean? But if they can maintain over 1 million, and that's the thing, is like, well, the first step was getting the over 1 million, and boom, we got it right here this week, and then being able to maintain it is the next step. I think it can be done, because this week's show was pretty good, relatively really good, and next week's show is super stacked, where you've got everyone tuned in to see what you have for next week. I think that they're in a great position. So
I think it was also like a really good show for a new viewer, because you like they didn't like throw a bunch of like they even explained the Young Bucks, like they even explained like, okay, these guys are heels now, like everything was pretty, and also Mike Tyson was there, and you saw Matt Hardy. Everybody knows Matt Hardy, so if you're an NXT fan, you can watch that show and be like, oh yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right, especially because if you're an NXT fan, you're still now seeing it once again back in that small arena area. There's not as much going on. I don't know if they've went back to a more limited capacity, or if they're filling their seats on NXT like they did for TakeOver. But
I was watching it, but I kind of couldn't tell.
It's just a much different vibe regardless, you know what I mean? Like, compared to the arena vibe, AEW does feel like a bigger league feel, I would say, right? Like,
it did sound like there were people there. I don't know, maybe it was just Performance Center people, but it did sound like there were people there.
I think they've run like a consistent limited capacity at the Performance Center, but then with TakeOver essentially filled every seat, and now I'm not sure if they're continuing to fill every seat with no gaps or what they're doing there. I mean, and regardless, TakeOver NXT is great, but I still think if you're someone who tunes into that and you know something else is on Wednesdays, like the product on Wednesdays is super professional. It's very good. It's such a good product with what AEW provides that it doesn't surprise me that we got this number, but I was hesitant, going into it. I was like, maybe they only do the regular 700,000-800,000, and it's like, oh man, we kind of missed the boat, like, because WWE has diehard fans, but they are also diehard wrestling fans who are curious about what has been on the other channel. I don't know if WWE is going to be kicking themselves over this move, or if they kind of anticipated it as everyone else did. but it's very clear, like, them moving has benefited AEW. Now AEW has to be able to remain on this path and capitalize on all this, but they have so many familiar faces, like you already brought up, such a good storyline situation already built into so much, and so there's just so much going on with AEW. I think that they're in a great position to maintain this 1.2 going forward. We might see that even increase over weeks. So
yeah, I believe so. And also they kicked it off with like a banger of an opener. So like if you watched the beginning of the show, and you probably did because Mike Tyson was there and there was video package, so you're probably like going to be like, oh, I'll check this out. If you watched that match, you would have been blown away easily. So we'll get to it, but I just wanted to point that out. That's another smart move, because I think I was jockeying for that being the main event. I'm glad that didn't happen, and AEW doesn't listen to me. Anyways, yeah, this is a big move. I do want to say NXT, that whole show, it was kind of weak. So I'm not going to say, I think this is good for NXT too. I just want to, devil's advocate, not even devil's advocate. We're rooting for both teams, but like, just NXT did a good number for kind of a mediocre show. So if they have a card that's like pretty stacked up, I'm pretty sure people will tune in like they tuned into here.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you make a great point there. Yeah, I think that comparatively AEW just continues to deliver in just a much more significant way than NXT. I tuned into some of NXT this week and was immediately drawn back to the position I've been in watching it in the past when it's not a takeover week where I'm like, this is good, but it's just really, there's so much, and it almost makes me... That's what made me feel for the idea of maybe AEW wouldn't do as big of a number, because when I tuned into NXT, I'm like, I'm not familiar with 90% of this talent. I have no connection with any of these guys. I like some of them because I knew them in the past, but I don't know as much about them. Like, maybe this is how NXT fans feel about AEW. But it turns out that obviously they have done something to make people have actual intrigue on, well, what's Darby Allin doing? What's Jungle Boy? Like, some of these guys they've built up over the last couple of months. What are they doing on the other channel, even though I'm watching NXT? I don't really have that feeling for very many people on NXT, especially their upper card, if you will.
Yeah.
So,
no, I agree.
I think the ratings are, and we don't harp too much on ratings. It's never really about the war. It's more so about how many people were tuned in, and we talked about that, I think, countless times. There was 1.5 million tuned in on Wednesday night. I think that should be AEW's goal, to pull in essentially that entire 1.5 that were consistently tuned in. Very close to that already. So an amazing thing to see. I always like to look at what's it look like next week, because they've seen this isn't even the biggest number. The biggest number is obviously the first episode. People were very intrigued, obviously wanted to know what was going on. Then it tapered off a little bit. This could be the same type of situation. I think that they're in a spot where they will consistently see 1 million every week, which is fun. And for us, that will make it less important to report on after another episode or two, where it's like, if it's just 1 million consistently, there's not a ton of growth.
It's probably going to be a brief.
They get what you want to see. Yeah. We'll definitely report when they see a major dip or anything like that. But it's super cool to see this, because this was an insane jump, I thought. I was not anticipating 1.2 at all the first week. Neither. And so, to me, I'm very impressed. I think they gave a phenomenal card for that, introducing new audience members and stuff. I think they did a lot of smart stuff over the last couple of weeks that we didn't necessarily enjoy, especially last week's show, but utilizing that to build into this week's show, rather than blowing off all of your steam on the same week everyone's watching TakeOver and then you're restarting everything. This week it would have been very boring for the fans. Instead, we were restarting last week. Now this week it was so much excitement that you're able to then build onto a card next week that just looks so great on paper. So they definitely delivered this week with Dynamite and stuff like that. The ratings are great. Something that else that has popped out that's been a bit of news within AEW is Ivelisse has apparently been released from her contract. I want to say we've maybe talked about her at some point in the last couple of weeks, because she hasn't been on TV, hasn't been featured. We were wondering if she was going to come back. I think she has already popped up in the news anyway, because she might have been cleared to return from injury or something of that nature. I don't remember the exact story. I know that there's something with her and Thunder Rosa and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on the release and what you know about the story?
It's I don't know too much about the story. I think I heard her kind of trashing like AEW a little, if I'm not mistaken. But I like Evilise and I like Diamante, and it's a shame that happened. But also, it's spring cleaning all around, Andrew.
It is, but before we get to the
I know.
the continued spring cleaning with this part with Ivelisse, it's interesting. Some of the story is that she had a match with Thunder Rosa many months back on Dynamite for the NWA Championship, and even back then, I think people were reporting that there were some stiff shots thrown in that match, potentially turned into a bit of a shoot where these two had broken down the structure of the match because they just weren't working well together. Ivelisse has since responded to some of that on social media because someone had said something along the lines of just attacking her for that match. And she was like, well, what happened was I am the leader. I'm the one who is supposed to be leading the match because I'm the veteran. And Thunder Rosa really wasn't following along with what I was doing. And so we had a breakdown in that situation. And you can understand that to an extent. But it seems like there's much more to the story than that. We're not going to get the additional part because AEW is going to not really discuss that part. Ivelisse will be able to explain her side of the story, and that's all we'll get. And I think that people still haven't really sided with her in this in any way. She's had a lot of issues in the past with other companies and stuff just not working out. So it's a tough break for her because I'm with you. I liked her work in AEW. I think that they obviously liked her work because they made her the first part of the first tag team that won that women's tag team tournament.
Yeah.
She was featured very well. Got that match against Thunder Rosa. They had a previous relationship that wasn't so great. So it's a tough break. I think that she had also reported there was misconduct, take that however you will, with one of the trainers within AEW. So you got to speculate within all of that as well. Until stuff is really broken down and we have a better understanding of it, it's all speculation. It's all he said, she said.
Yeah.
It's all primarily Ivelisse's side of the story. I think we will get some of it because generally when AEW does pressers, they do respond to this type of stuff. So we will get some type of a response, but I don't think we'll ever get the full story. So it's a weird thing. Unfortunate that Ivelisse just didn't work out, but with so many people being released, as you kind of briefly mentioned, it seems like the perfect time, I guess. I mean, and if I was AEW, I might consider releasing a couple other superstars to clear room on the roster and stuff because there is just such an influx of talent now available. We will talk briefly about WWE's recent releases just because of some talent we might like to see in an AEW ring and stuff of that nature, probably more so 90 days down the road, but who knows exactly. But Samoa Joe, Kalisto, Chelsea Green, Peyton Royce, Billy Kay, a number of people have been released from WWE. Tucker, plenty of people released from WWE. AJ, who's the top two you want to see in an AEW ring? Give me two.
Top two, probably Joe and Kalisto.
I would say Joe and Kalisto as well. I'm with you. And that's a little bit of a cheap answer for me because I feel like Peyton Royce is inevitably going to end up in the company.
Yeah.
Like, there's almost no question about it. She's married to your boy Sean Spears. Obviously then has to have some type of friendship relationship with Cody, you would imagine. She did have a friendship with Brody Lee prior to his passing. Like, it seems like she has been close with many people already in that group, in that roster. So she's someone I anticipate joining the company. I'm not super high on her wrestling talent, but I haven't seen a ton of her matches in recent memory to say if I feel like there's been growth. We've also mentioned when women especially, but talent in general, show up in AEW, they seem to blossom relatively quick. So
very true, because apparently they're just doing something right. I'm super stoked at the prospect of Joe. Really, and not just Joe in AEW, Joe wherever he wants to go, because he's gonna go somewhere. If he goes to New Japan, I'm totally down. If he goes to Impact, cool. I don't know why he would, but
that would be great for Impact, though.
It would be great for Impact. I just don't think they're gonna be able to like play the money game as well as those two could.
And I think you're right, but if they can, afford it in some type of way to where it's like, maybe Joe isn't getting paid necessarily as much as he was in the bigger company, but he can still appear for AEW, so get a payday that way. Appear for New Japan, get a payday that way. But kind of the same way Gallows and Anderson were brought in. I think that could be perfect for Impact, who needs a top star. And they have a couple that are borderline there. Your boy Moose, but imagine a Moose and Samoa Joe program, what that does for Moose, and among other talent. I think bringing Joe in is great because it doesn't really have that same former WWE stink. He's older but young. Not young. Young is a weird word, but he's not as old. Also, he's not as old as Christian, I guess, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Samoa Joe is like in the AJ Styles like realm, but even less than that because he still feels like a TNA ROH guy. You know, he doesn't feel like a WWE guy.
He didn't get a major WWE run. You know, in terms of he was featured. It's not like he didn't get a good run when he was there. It's not like they did him wrong. It's just his length with Ring of Honor and Impact is just so much more than his WWE.
Yeah, it's like
time.
they signed a player that they didn't farm.
Mm-hmm. And then let him go at a time where he still seemingly can go, I would say.
Yeah, I think so. Oh
I have no reason to believe he can't. I don't even think like his injury situation is bad enough for him to have not been competing.
No, he was completely healed. They just wanted him on commentary.
And that is an interesting fact in it of itself. Like eventually him being implemented in commentary could also be something, or maybe he just wants to play the role of a manager in the next 2 to 3 years, doesn't see himself wrestling for a long time. There's so much you can do with a talent like Joe in AEW. Seems like signing him is a no-brainer, but if he went to Impact, I would really like that as well, because I feel for Impact where they need 1 or 2 guys like that, where they could really benefit from it.
It would be great for Impact, and like for wrestling, it's probably the best move. But I will say, as far as Joe's wrestling capability, like he hasn't like the last time I saw him, it wasn't that long ago. Like the last time he wrestled in WWE, and he looked just as good as he always had. Hey, I know he's 42, but like Chris Jericho's what 50, 51. Like I don't think
Christian's like 49, 50.
Yeah, exactly. So. And Edge is back. Like and he's really relatively compared to how some of these way older guys are doing. He's not that old. And like Kenny Omega's in his late 30s. I mean, it's not like it's a ridiculous like age guy. He could do that for another fucking 10 years if he wanted. I don't think he's going to. But I think he'll be perfectly fine in the ring.
Mm-hmm. I would love to see him pop up in Ring of Honor.
Ring of Honor was that's also the other great choice.
Guys like him being released right now, it can be such a positive for professional wrestling that people probably aren't anticipating. And in general, for the independent scene, especially, like maybe not independent, but the lower wrestling companies like Impact, like Ring of Honor, who could benefit so much from Joe appearing and getting to make appearances, and even someone like Kalisto, and we talked about Andrade a couple of weeks ago. Like guys like that who, if they started appearing in these companies, they all of a sudden have something that makes them where you want to watch them. AEW already has that. WWE already has that. I think that signing Joe, I would love to see it. I would like to see Kalisto, even if it was just for a short run in an AEW ring. I would like to see those type of things. But I also think AEW's talent is just so deep right now that they could end up in the same situation essentially WWE is in, where they just keep signing so many talented people that you just have too much. I think to an extent they might already be in that position, but they're doing well at juggling it. I wouldn't say it's a problem because most of the guys I want to see appear within a 1 to 2 week span on AEW. Like they're smart about it. But adding in a Joe, adding in a Kalisto, adding in and Peyton Royce to the women's division, Chelsea Green to the women's division, I think that helps the women's division to have names that people recognize. I think they could be helped to, their talent could be, and they're not bad talent either. I know Chelsea Green has a lot of fans, so yeah, there's a lot that could come out of this releasing season, but I think AEW has such a deep pool that it might just be better for these guys to go elsewhere.
That's fair, but also like AEW to me is so faction based, almost like New Japan was like around 2016, and New Japan still is, but I don't watch it as much. Anyways, like faction based, that you can really like you can sign. The issue to me is like money. Like how much are you really do you want to spend on all this talent? Not. Like, do we have room for them? Because I think they have room for them. Because like you're split up into so many factions, you slide them into Team Taz or any major faction, and or even he starts his own, and like you can like work with all this talent, and I think that's a fine way of going about booking.
I agree with you. I think you're right. I think that they can withstand adding more talent to the roster, but it's just especially now with there being so many more releases again. You just wonder, and it's really cool and interesting for professional wrestling in general to just have such a deeper pool of talent available for any one of these companies to pick up, especially as things seem to open back up. Samoa Joe, I think, is going to be the biggest one people are talking about for right now, unless a couple other names get released. And we'll have to keep an eye out for that, because these type of things typically don't last just one day. And it'll probably be 90 days, like I said, before we really see any type of development come from this. But AEW is usually pretty smart at building that up ahead of time. You can kind of see it coming. So, yeah, I'm excited to see, especially someone like Joe, but some of the female talent, Kalisto, I'm a big fan of. So there's a lot of interesting stuff that could come from this. That wraps up essentially the news that was worth talking about, though. Definitely excited to see if any of those new talent make their way to AEW. Let's go ahead and talk about Dynamite. They opened the show up with the same way we opened the show. Mike Tyson and MJF chatting it up for a second. MJF essentially trying to buy off Mike Tyson. I think that this was a cool way to shut down fan theories early, no?
I like that Mike Tyson ate the blank check. He didn't just rip it up. He was like, "Oh."
That's Mike Tyson, bro. That's what you get with Mike Tyson. You get.
It was great. No, I loved it.
I loved it too. So,
no, this is good promo. I think MJF did a great job. Like just setting up, like maybe like as a red herring, is he gonna hit Jericho?
I think so too. Good stuff. Relatively good intro. And I like that they continue to do just a brief 20, 30 second boom. You have to tune into the beginning of the show is almost how I take it right now. You have to be tuned in for that first couple minutes because they're always doing a brief little something that you might miss. So I think they do a great job with that, and then they lead right into an awesome AEW Tag Team Championship match between the Young Bucks against Ray
before
Phoenix.
that they have a video package of the Young Bucks.
Oh, okay.
And they, they're talking about how they turned on Jon Moxley to be friends because they chose friendship over that. And Don Callis was right. They have changed, and they don't like how they were acting, and now they're hungry again, and they're not content, and they cut off the tassels. It's interesting to see them
transition this so quickly after being so on the edge last week to now they're immediately like, this is no problem for us.
It is a little jarring. Yeah, it was a little jarring to me. The reason I do like it, though, is because how we were saying on BT, like with the BTE thing, like people need to tune into that and they should show it. This is kind of them showing it. Like this is kind of them explaining what happened on BTE in a different way. So in that regard, I like that they're informing the fans like, okay, this was the deal.
I agree with you there 100%. It's just like the lead up was so strange into this almost abrupt situation where they're like almost whole new people. That's where you're tuning into Being the Elite helps that a little bit, helps facilitate that. It's still just like, man, it's been a week and these guys are already totally different. But that leads into this tag team match, which again, like you said, it's appreciated for them to sort of break things down for the fans and give them more of an idea of what's going on. And they come out looking totally different. Had a great match, right?
Great match. This was fantastic up and down. Nobody missed a beat. Ray Phoenix.
It's what you would expect with these two teams, you know what I mean? It's the Young Bucks, it's Pac and Phoenix. It's exactly what we anticipated. So, and I think it's a great way to kick the show off too. So
I just didn't expect it to get so much time, and it got so much time. Like basically, like 25 minutes ish, maybe like give or take. And that's a lot of time for like a great ass match that they knew was going to be great. So like you said, it's a very smart move. It's the right thing to do for the opener. It's especially on the day where the days have changed. So you might have an influx of fans who are kind of new to the product. Kick it off with a match like that. You got them hooked, man. Like who wouldn't? And it was
risky move though, and then shows the confidence in, and you should have confidence in your two EVPs especially, but it shows the confidence in these four talent to go out there and hold the audience's attention for that entire 25-minute span. I'm excited to see the hourly breakdown. It's probably already available. I just haven't seen it yet of how the 15 minutes went down in the beginning of the show, because again, holding people's attention span for 25 minutes. Yes, there's nothing on another channel related to this where you can just tune into something else, but it is interesting that they were given this much time. Maybe we get more of this. Maybe AEW feels more comfortable having longer really good matches that fans have wanted to see because they don't have that competition. And that's not to say that they've been booking or thinking about, oh, what's on the other channel, but you have to know, like, okay, if we do a 30-minute match, people are always going to change the channel. But if there's nothing to change the channel to now, we can run those 30-minute matches without that problem, without that fear. I think that we might see that more often, especially if the breakdown is good. So,
if you want to check the breakdown, I can rant about how good Rey Fenix is for a second.
Nah, I don't want to search stuff. I don't even know if it's out yet, but because usually Meltzer gets the good breakdowns. So there might be something out right now, but Meltzer also does a good job at just breaking it down. So,
well, Rey Fenix is fucking awesome. Is the point? Like, Rey Fenix is one of the best in the world, I think.
Oh yeah, dude. I think we've definitely been saying that for a while now, but I think everybody's really catching on because it's just undeniable as to how freaking talented he is and some of the stuff he does. I would love to see him get like just a real strong singles feud to get in a chance to establish that outside of just having the best matches, like get a story alongside it. But I don't have to have that because he does have really great matches too. You know what I mean?
So I was watching NXT, right, like I said, and when I was watching it, Leon Ruff did that thing where he springs off the second rope, bounces to the top, and then does a Hurricane Rana like Rey Fenix, right? And I was like, that looked like shit. It was perfect. It was fine. It was fine. The move was executed perfectly. It wasn't botched. But because I've seen Rey Fenix do it so much better, I was like, that's garbage.
Right, I agree. I understand what you're trying to say. Then we cut backstage. Alex Marvez is talking to the Hangman, talking about being the #1 contender, having a deal with Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers. Mm-hmm. Very interesting little interview here. What'd you think about it?
I love anything that Hangman's in, but I did like how he was completely avoidant to it. Like, it clearly shows that there's problems there. Also, I love Johnny Hungy's rehab. That was great because I think it is important to keep John Silver on TV while he's hurt.
And I think it's important to be able to do it in a way that fits his character. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you might, with a talent that is more serious, it's kind of an easier thing to do. You just show them rehabbing. With him, you do it in a much more fun and entertaining way, and that's what you would anticipate from his character. You don't want to see him at the doctors or him just training. Like you want to get the entertaining portion of this as well. So. Then after this is when we got some more backstage conversation, this time Marvez with the Inner Circle and Mike Tyson kind of just building up more the idea of Jericho and Tyson potentially having an issue, I think, a little bit. Tyson says that he doesn't want any special favors. He's going to call it down the middle. This was fine. I didn't really take a whole lot from this segment, though.
Yeah, me neither. I thought it was just like, oh, we want to have Chris Jericho and Mike Tyson on screen at the same time. Like they were going to before, but like they want them talking.
Right. And yeah, exactly. So from there, we get Jade Cargill against Red Velvet, a match we've been anticipating for many weeks. So what'd you think?
I liked it.
I saw some people on social media who didn't love it, but
I know. Like, I figured there would be because it wasn't like mind blowing. But like, what the fuck are you expecting? Like, I wasn't expecting her to blow me away and do a Canadian Destroyer off the top rope. Like, fucking. She wrestled perfectly competently, considering it's her third fucking match. Okay, like she is a blue chipper, way above and beyond what most people are capable of at her speed, at where she's at. So like, no, it was perfectly adequate to me. I thought Red Velvet also looked great. They both did a good job. I was entertained by this match.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think that people are definitely being a little bit overly critical and just looking for, and it sucks when people, and I guess it's just the way of the business, but when people know that someone's new and they immediately like just look for things to tear down rather than understanding the fact that not everyone's going to come in and be like a 5-star wrestler from day one, especially if they haven't had that chance with the independent background. And we'll get more into that, I guess, as we talk about the Anthony Gogo match. But I think that the Red Velvet and Jade match was fine. I think Jade continues to look really impressive in what she's capable of doing and whatnot. So I like seeing her. I liked what she did in this match. So, but I understand, I guess, some of the social media stuff. But I don't know. I think she's great, and I think she's growing, and she's going to grow into becoming a really phenomenal talent within AEW.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
This was a great featured match for her. We got a Britt Baker interview talking about how she's now number 3 on the rankings. Red Velvet, who was just number 2, lost, so she might as well be number 2. Talks about how a little bit about Tay Conti as well, so potentially building up something there as what I'm taking from it. But good conversation. Britt says that she's going to be on Dark Elevation Monday, potentially to rack up another win and really solidify that number 2 spot. I can appreciate a storyline built off of the rankings, a storyline built off of a heel of all people trying to work their way up the rankings, but doing it in the perfect way, just shitting on the rankings throughout the process. I don't know if you caught, I think it was on Dark, where she cut a promo talking about how it literally called them bullshit rankings, which I thought was amazing. Like, it was just so much fun to hear her shit on them, and the way that she does it isn't the same way that the marks on the internet do, but the way that a talent should, of like, oh, I actually know that I'm ranked bad because I'm a loser, but I'm so popular that I should be ranked number 1. Like, the way that they present it is great. I think that Britt has been doing a great job through this. An amazing way to build her back up to a title opportunity, which she deserves for being so popular and leading the women's division the way she did. But with her losing that match, they're building it up the right way still. I love that from AEW in this situation. In WWE, and you wouldn't even be mad if they just hot-shotted her right into the title picture, right? Because of how hot she was coming off that match. But this is a proper way to do it and continue building on that hot streak as well, because her promos add such a great element to what she does. I think they did such a great job with this Britt Baker thing right now, and they've just consistently done a great job with it ever since she's turned.
I'm gonna say it because because of what you just said, because of all of that, I am ready for Britt Baker to win the title.
I agree.
Not because they did not hotshot her, because they're doing it this way. Because it's a slow build and a slow burn, and she's working her way up the bullshit ranking systems, and she's the top heel. And if anybody's gonna beat Hikaru, it should be the top heel.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think that when that match is booked, you still don't know, right? Because Hikaru has been booked so phenomenally as a face. She has consistently beaten people where you're like, oh, this person's being built up to beat Hikaru. No. This person's being built up to beat Hikaru. No. Like, so now we're anticipating it again with Brit, but still there's that element of we really don't know. And Brit has been booked so well that it's going to be a great match as well. I think that the women's division is in such an interesting position, especially within AEW, that if they can continue to really feature these talent who are standing out, the Tay Contis, the Britt Bakers, the Hikaru Shidas, you even have Rio on the sidelines, like, and we just got back Stat, so there's just so many people in that division right now that are so impressive that there's nowhere but up for that division, which has already been moving so well, and it's because of someone like Britt Baker, who didn't even have to have the championship to champion that division. What a freaking, like, just an amazing thing right there in and of itself. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's why we can spend probably 5 minutes every time we talk about Britt Baker, even though it's just a really quick promo. So now, speaking of really quick, Anthony Gogo makes his debut against Cole Carter and wins in super quick fashion with one swift punch to the gut. Referee calls off the match after Carter apparently cannot get to his feet with enough time after this stiff punch. I can appreciate getting this punch over. It didn't do it for me. I think it didn't necessarily do it for the general population. I think some people, in general people understood, but it still just didn't connect.
So I liked it, and I liked it because we were talking about it in the WrestleJoy Discord, but I liked it until the main event when Mike Tyson actually punched somebody in the face and it looked really good, and I was like, oh, Andrew was right.
It just is so, like,
I get it, because you can knock
people.
somebody out with a liver or a kidney punch, absolutely, for sure. Like, that happens a lot in fighting, but like,
it really doesn't happen in one punch, I think. And I don't watch a lot of boxing, especially, which is where the background of Gogo comes from. Perhaps this happens somewhat often in boxing where I feel like this happens after multiple punches that someone is taken down from a kidney shot. For it to be a one punch thing, it just kind of feels silly to me. It feels like something I haven't seen.
Well, I'm pretty sure Brock
Lesnar
got taken down by getting hit once in the liver.
He had diverticulitis.
No, that was before the diverticulitis, Andrew. It's not because
diverticulitis, I'm telling you. So I mean, I get it. I get it 100%. I 1000% get what they're doing. I can appreciate them trying to get this punch over, especially because they've sold it so well with Cody. The last 2 times he's hit it on Cody, it's looked match ending to an extent. To an extent. I didn't actually expect it to be a fucking match ender, though. Like, that's what's kind of throwing me off here, is it's actually ending matches. So I get it. I can appreciate it for what it's been built up to. I will never be sold on watching a match end from a guy getting punched in the stomach. Ever. Never,
I
ever,
get it.
ever. Never.
Like, I totally get it. I'm semi-okay with it, but I would prefer if he punched him in the head now.
And I get why you might not want that to be his finish, because guys might not want to get punched in the head by someone who's new to the fucking business for like 6 months and hasn't had but a cup of tea since working in here, since getting over from the UK. But even to that point, I get it. But build this matchup with him doing 4 or 5 punches before that to like some nice little body shots in the corner, boom, 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 and then he loads up on him and gets it like. And maybe that's what they build to in the coming weeks, right? Maybe that's what his matches look like next week and the week after, as it's a little bit more of a build-up before he gut punches somebody. But with it being a one-punch thing at the very beginning of the match, I would much rather have seen it be like a one-punch knockout type of situation. So it was a impressive for what it was debut, I suppose. Our boy Zevo really didn't love it. He wanted to see just more of what Anthony Gogo has done in terms of training, and I can understand that, but that's also not necessarily the gimmick they're going with this guy. So I get what they did with him, and maybe he can wrestle really well, but right now they're just trying to really get over that punch. So
yeah,
that's what I took it as. In terms of his wrestling capabilities, whether it's there or not, I think we'll find out in coming weeks. This was just an opportunity to really get that move over. So we go backstage with Miro. He's talking about how he hasn't seen Kip since their Arcade Anarchy loss. He said he's going to move on with or without Kip Sabian, and he's putting all of the champions on notice. So this, to me, has me thinking he's going after Darby, which we found out later on in the show retaining. But it could be either champion, of course, but I think he's going to take his time. He's not going right for Kenny. I think we will see Kip return, potentially as an aide to Miro, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm expecting, like you said, Darby, because as Evo pointed out, Darby really doesn't have a program right now. This would be a good program for Darby. Kenny, he's good.
Yeah, I think that it would be a great program for both Darby and Miro. Like, both guys have impressed me over the last couple of months. Darby has now kind of gotten into a situation where he's won enough matches that I could see him potentially retaining over Miro, but I could also see Miro taking the title and having a really strong run as just a heel dominant champion, which would be great for Miro, great for the title, great for everybody, really. I feel like I think Darby's kind of run his situation as champion. He's better off chasing, I think, is what we kind of talked about on our last show. So I think that's where we're going with this. I think Miro, again, I think Kip comes back to aid Miro, maybe even in winning that championship to make up for the Arcade Anarchy loss, something like that. So I don't think those guys are done yet. And maybe he comes to try and make up for it, cost Miro the title, and that's when they're done. I saw that idea proposed in the WrestleJoy Discord last night, so that could be cool. We'll have to wait and see, but I love that Miro's getting an opportunity, and he seems to be feeling more and more comfortable the more time he gets in AEW, so that's good.
Yeah. No, Miro's been on a roll, especially his work, like in-ring work, has been phenomenal.
Yeah, and the promos have been here or there, like they're not the worst, but they're definitely not the best, and that's what I mean by him getting a little bit more comfortable, is I think he's just starting to feel a place of like, how can I be... maybe not myself, which might be too goofy for professional wrestling, but like a close version of that where I can be goofy but still a bad guy. Because that's what I get from Miro all the time, is that he's a bad guy, but he's kind of a goof. After this, we get Chris Jericho taking on Dax Harwood. Jericho's got Sammy with him. Harwood has Cash Wheeler with him. Mike Tyson's the guest enforcer. This match had a lot go on. But it was good. It was all right. It was fine for what it was. You got what you wanted in Cash getting punched, or Dax.
Yeah, that was great. No, it was Cash.
Okay, yeah. See, Zevo, this is where
Jericho's
Zevo's going
right.
to say that's what's wrong. That's the problem. Yeah, it is.
No, it was a good match. A lot happened, like you said, but I mean, it's the inner circle and the pinnacle. It makes sense for a lot to happen here. But No, I like this. I like that Dax got to have a match with Jericho. I feel like that's a good matchup. It is weird though because Dax is the injured one. You would think they would switch these guys. I don't know. Whatever. Who cares? It's cool. It was a good match. They worked well together. I got to see a sick lion salt. I'm happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you there. We got to see a sick lion salt. We got to see a sick low punch from Mike Tyson. So this was good. Good stuff. I cannot complain. I agree with you in the sense that it is interesting. Like, he's the injured guy. Why is he the one working against Jericho? I think maybe it's just the storyline sense of Jericho had busted him open a couple weeks ago, so they wanted to continue that. But yeah, this was good. Mike Tyson now the new member of the Inner Circle, so there's that. He's gonna be a part of all the fun now, right? He's gonna be there every week, right? He's in the stable, right?
I don't. Yeah, right.
What do you mean? Come on.
I said yes.
All right, so Mike Tyson every week. Sounds good. I don't think that's legit, AJ. I don't think he's really a member. He seemed kind of surprised by it himself, but I don't know. We didn't get Jericho getting punched out, though, so that's good.
Nope.
Alex Marvez is talking to Kenny Omega outside Daly's place. Just a quick little rundown, continuation of what they've got going on with the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks got to talking as well. This was good. I thought this was great. We have Don Callis doing a super kick at the end of it, which was it was what it was, right? These guys are bad guys now, so fuck it. I'm supposed to hate that. I didn't love it, so that's what it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah, no, I did love it because I like the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and the
Stop
Elite.
marking for heels, brother.
I can't. It's specifically the Young Bucks and Kenny too, but the Young Bucks were my guys for so long.
Now you're cheering for Don Callis, super kicking cameraman. This is bullshit, AJ. Look at what's gotten into you. You need to get rid of the Beach Boy gimmick and get some
I'm a Beach Boy like the Young Bucks.
All right, there we go.
The LA Beach Boys.
The LA
Reseda.
Beach Boys. Yeah, this was good though. This wasn't a whole lot to it, but it was a good little addition to what they've got going on. So
yeah,
we got another video package too, which I liked, but we could have had it been a little bit bigger. Hyping up Thunder Rosa, saying that she's the best in the world. Rosa says that whoever wins between Shida and Tay Conti, she's coming for them next. So that's cool. And
that is cool. I'm into it. Like I still feel like I don't know. Like I want to see the match. That's what matters. I want to see Thunder Rosa versus either one of those women would be cool, but I want to see it versus Hikaru Shida again. And I want to see her lose to Hikaru Shida again. And then I want Britt Baker to beat I want Hikaru Shida, and then I want her to beat Thunder Rosa and retain, and I'll be so happy.
Jeez, you're just trying to book the whole freaking thing, huh? I wouldn't mind seeing any of those women mix it up. I would love to see Rosa especially match up with Conti, maybe in a non-title competition, and get just a victory over Tay, but make Tay look like $1 million in doing so. I think that could be a lot of fun. I think it's great to have a video package for Thunder Rosa, so yeah, I thought this was pretty awesome and cool leading into Chris Statlander versus Amber Nova. Like, we're just getting a lot of women's representation on this show, which is what you want to see, especially with how many talented women they have available. So this is good. Chris Statlander makes a return, picks up the pinfall victory over Amber Nova. Thought Nova looked fine. Thought Statlander looked great in her return. So that's great, right? That's what we want.
I completely agree. Exactly what you said. Amber Nova looked fine. Statlander, $1 million.
Did Stat start the way that Amber Nova did, where she was enhancement, if you will, or was she brought in kind of as like a...
No, I don't think so, because she was kind of, what's that, Beyond or whatever it's called? Like, she was she was kind of a big deal there. So I feel like they brought her in knowing who she was.
And I think that they kind of have an idea with the majority of the talent they bring in. I just couldn't remember if she was someone, maybe even like Layla Hirsch, who was brought in initially as like extra and then boom, connected.
I don't think so, but you could be right. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't think so.
Yeah, but regardless, I love that Stat is continuously been featured even prior to her injury, but even coming back, she feels like a bigger star coming back, and she felt more confident in this match to me, just like she was in there in a better position than where she was 6 months ago even. Like, she's fully into her character, she's fully into the story that she's got going on, aligning with Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends. Like, so much going with her that just feels much better now that she's been gone, and so, for some reason the time off just helped for her, to me.
Yeah, no, because it's very refreshing seeing her.
Like, it's just very interesting the way it has seemingly enhanced her star. Like, and maybe this is something they could try more with another talent who isn't injured, but like, okay, we introduce them, we give people time to familiarize themselves with them a little bit, we take them off TV then for like 3 months, let them train, and then reintroduce them again, kind of in the same idea you get with an excursion, and maybe they just do it in that way. But I think that somehow this worked for Stat, where something about her when she came back, like even just because I'm seeing this picture of her when she's making her entrance, I'm like, she just seems more confident, like a bigger star to me than she ever did prior to leaving. And I don't, maybe it's just because she's aligned with the best friends and stuff now. That easily could be it.
That's what I was gonna say, is like maybe that gives her a little bit of a rub.
She did inherit Orange Cassidy's theme song, so
yeah, that definitely
that's cool
helps
for her. And her and Orange looked cool at the end of the match. Orange Cassidy trying to do his gimmick of just like flailing her arm up and giving up.
Yeah,
and she was like, nah, you're gonna lift my arm all the way up. And so that was fun. I like what they've got going with them. So we go backstage. Dawson's talking to Team Taz. They're trying to find out about the Christian being invited to the group. Ricky Starks says that they shouldn't be waiting so long, which is, it's funny because he mentions the fact they waited a month for Hobbs, but he doesn't want to wait a week for Christian. I'm like, bro, you should be willing to wait even longer, wouldn't you? But apparently not. Apparently the older you get in wrestling, the easier it should be for you to make a decision. So Taz tells him he's not coming out to the ring. Cage is like, that sounds like a great idea to me. He shouldn't be out to the ring. And then Taz is like, you're also not coming out to the ring, which I said was a horrible move from Taz. If you want Christian Cage to join Team Taz, probably should have Brian Cage helping, facilitate that deal. That's just me. I know they're not really related, but you know. So yeah, this was a good way to explain that. I don't know the story to this though. Like, maybe my thought process is Cage and Starks have now met up backstage and are like, why is Hobbs his favorite guy? Like that's what I could see happening here.
Yeah,
I think this means something for sure. I just don't know what.
I think it's kind of what you said. Like, they're gonna be like, they're playing favor with Hobbs and Starks, and I don't. I really don't know. Because this could go anywhere. Because like, I have no idea what they're planning to do with Team Taz. In 90 days, I do, but I don't know right now.
Right. I hope that, and who knows, maybe they now try to figure that into the whole equation. If they do want to bring Joe in and potentially incorporate him into Team Taz, like, you could totally do a 180 on the story because you haven't really given us a clear direction as to where it's going.
That's true.
So I really like that too. This is super compelling to me. Now they have to pay off in a way that is going to make sense of like why we've put so much time into this up to this point. But it's very compelling because I don't really know what's going to happen. I think that it will be a moment where I'm like, oh fuck, like this is great. Like when you're watching your favorite TV show and a crazy storyline happens, I anticipate that from my favorite TV show in AEW doing the same type of thing. So I don't really know what's going to happen. Maybe they all come together and maybe they recognize like, oh man, I really wanted to meet Christian and I didn't get to because Taz yelled at me. So now their behavior will be all better. But I don't think that's going to be the case. But I like that I don't know what's happening.
Exactly.
Hopefully it turns out to be something cool. So then Taz finally comes out to the ring, or Christian, I guess, is interviewed by Shivani at first. He's about to be asked some questions before he can even answer. Taz is like, yo, why haven't you answered my question? Why aren't you answering my calls, my texts? No, but he's talking about, why haven't you let us know if you're going to join the group? Christian essentially says that he's not going to join the group. And then
he's just not going to fix his problems.
Yeah, which is fair, right? I mean, he didn't, and I'm glad we didn't tease this for 6 weeks, which to the point of like, yes, Hobbs did get a ton of time, and we thought maybe this would get a ton of time. I'm glad it didn't take a ton of time. I'm glad it wasn't the Team Canada story all over again, where he has the jersey on and reveal like what I was anticipating. I'm glad it was short, sweet, and to the point, and instead it is seemingly setting up a feud between Christian and Hobbs. Like, that is fucking great for Hobbs of all people. That. So, very interesting. With Hobbs destroying Christian, he looked like $1 million and beating Christian up.
Absolutely.
Too. So
He looked great. He looked like a monster, and that's what he needs to look like.
Mm-hmm. And that's where the Cage and Starks thing, I think, just adds that much more intrigue, right? Because he looked so great in what he did. And that, well, how are these guys going to feel about it? And they never came out to help him do what he was doing. So really, how do they feel about it? So, but nonetheless, it was a good segment, a good way to set up something for Christian that doesn't seem to be what we had anticipated from him. Looks like that Kenny Omega thing might be a pay-per-view story, potentially, because they do have time to still build it between now and then. But we'll see. He thought it looked like he had his sights set on him, but instead got dropped by Hobbs. So. Then we got the rundown of next week's card, and then we go into our main event match. Darby Allin defending against Matt Hardy in a Falls Count Anywhere, no disqualification match for the AEW TNT Championship. A match that I'm not going to lie, by the time people were making their entrances, there was enough chatter in the WrestleDroid Discord and on our last podcast where I was like, man, Darby's really gonna lose. He's really gonna lose the title, and I was okay with it. It's not like I'm.
Actually, I wasn't sure. I know you guys were, but I was sold.
Like he's probably gonna lose, and Matt was looking really good. It's not even a sense of like, man, I hate that they're gonna put the title on Matt Hardy, this ex-WWE old man. It was more so like, man, I don't like Matt Hardy the character. Don't make this man the champion. Like. And that's what you want, right? Like that's the way the story should be told and put together. So I was like, man, he really could become champion. I think they did a great job in the match that they put together, especially the final spot with Darby climbing up the freaking
that was crazy.
The railing and doing the coffin drop spot and no injury coming of it. Which, like, of course, Darby's so good at what he does that you shouldn't anticipate an injury, but all I could think of was like, this same type of table shit is how Matt freaking busted his head open last time. Like, maybe this is a horrible spot idea, but
it kind of was, but it worked.
He did it so good that he was never close to what in my mind could have happened. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, oh, coffin drop, he could easily smash his head the same way Matt did, but he landed on like his upper back, was never even close. So yeah, the match was great. There was, again, in this match more so than that previous one we were talking about, had so much going on in it, because at a point
this one bothered me a little.
You called it like eerily reminiscent of 2010 Impact main events, right? Because there was just so much going on. Fortunately, they capped everything off so well, and I feel like this is a point where we can mention the pro wrestling PTSD that isn't from WWE this time, but more so from Impact Russo style booking of like, this is a fucking clusterfuck. What are they gonna do? Fortunately, like I said, everything closed itself off in a way that made some semblance of sense, but when you have probably 20 people involved in the main event, like, almost not kidding, maybe closer to 15, but potentially actually 20 people involved in this main event situation, it's a lot to follow, right? Because we had Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky trying to get involved because Sting got involved, and Sting is involved to take out the Hardy family, whatever law firm they've got going on there. And then there's a Dark Order who also came out, and so that's just so much people. And we have Lance Archer come out to protect Sting from All Ego and Scorpio Sky, and we didn't know, was he going to attack Sting? And then instead he just kills Private Party. Like, so much that happened from this, right? But it was still capped off in a way that, okay, we understand what's going on with Sting and Archer. We understand what's going on with the Dark Order and Matt Hardy's little family he's got going on. And Darby's facing Matt. Like, there's so much that happened, but if you watch the product, you understand it. That's where the only problem is 1.2 million people, obviously 400,000 who might not have necessarily known what was going on. I think commentary did a good job at following it as well, and I can also appreciate commentary saying, there's a lot going on. I was like, yes, at least you know, like, fuck. But
it was... like you said, aside from that, they capped it off very well. Everything made sense. Everything worked if you follow the product. If you don't follow the product, it is a little confusing. But other than that, the match itself, like, they got away from that. All disputes that were going crazy were settled. People went a bit of the back, and the match got going again. And they did a crazy, and they followed it up pretty well with that ladder spot with the leg drop to the table, and then the coffin drop through the table, and just two crazy spots, and it definitely made me go, well, fuck it. I don't care about the crazy, like, bullshit in the middle. Like, this was fucking awesome.
And Darby is an incredible ragdoll, right? Like, the way he is just, like, allowing his body to be thrown around. Like, when Matt threw him across the ramp and he, like, did a somersault, landed on his feet, took 2 steps, and then continued falling, I was like, you're like an actual fucking dummy, like, just flopping around. Like, you do such a great job with this, and to still have pulled out the victory was surprising to me. I think they set it up really well. I think they did everything really, really well with this match where, again, a lot happened. Yes, in the middle of it, you're like, a lot is happening. I don't really love this, but it didn't affect the finish, right? Like, I think that's the easiest way to not be offended by 20,000 things happening in the match is you still get a finish that is clean for a a match of this standard, right? So I think that they did a great job at it. AEW has a lot of moments like this where it is a cluster, where it's not in a match, so you don't get that that encapsulation of everything in a clean finish, so you don't really know how to feel about it, because they brawl a lot on this show. We see it often. Do. But this was one where, again, it all made sense. Everything worked out really well, so I liked how they finished it. I was loving the fact that Darby retained, because this sets up, again, as I'm thinking, Darby and Miro, and just obviously positive things going forward. As I said, next week's card looks great. I think AEW is in an insane position right now. Is really the only way to put it.
I completely agree. I mean, at the end of the day, like 1.2 million people tuned into a good episode of Dynamite. It may not have been the best episode ever, whatever, who cares? It was good, and people are going to respond to that. They're going to respond to that by tuning in next week, by going, well, there was something I liked about that, I'm going to watch it again. It may be higher, it may be a little lower, I don't know, but I don't think we're going to drop too far, honestly.
Nah, I don't think so either, because next week is just such a great card on paper. I'll run through it. We're not going to give any predictions or thoughts, but it's such a good card. I can't not at this point. But Trent taking on Pentagon, Ricky Starks versus Hangman, Hobbs versus Cage, Hikaru Shida versus Conti for the Women's Championship. Like, if you're, again, a fan of the product, or just maybe even a new fan, you're seeing incredible matches on paper and so much to draw you in for. So I think that they've got a lot to look forward to next week. And they did a great job this week. You see so many fans tuned in. Looks like AEW is again on a positive upswing, something we were essentially talking about like a year and a month ago, and now things just seem to be getting better and better. So yeah, things look great. Things look great. I'm excited. That pretty much wraps what we need to talk about, though. We've talked about all of Dynamite, all of the relevant news leading into AEW this week. We'll be back on Tuesday to talk a little bit about probably some dark elevation, give our predictions and full thoughts on the match card. They'll probably add another match or two into next week's show as well, so have that to look forward to over the weekend. Hope everybody enjoys what they've got coming. AJ, let them know where to find you.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at AJTheFitzy.
And you can find me on Twitter at 2SweetElite. Make sure you check me out up there. That's where I repost all of my WrestleJoy articles. We did a great one on Danny Limelight that got shared yesterday. Hope everybody could take some time out to read that. Danny Limelight's got a great, interesting career stemming from being in the Marines for many, many years, working as a stuntman. He also does some cosplay as a Spider-Man who goes to children and visits them in children's hospitals. So he does a ton of great, amazing stuff outside of just his wrestling career, which is very interesting in and of itself. So make sure you guys check me out. Like I said, 2SweetElite on Twitter. I'm on Instagram at Andrew Kazir. You can find the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/AllElitePod, or on YouTube at youtube.com/AllElitePodcast. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, brother. You can find us on Instagram at AllEliteEverything and Twitter at AllElitePodcast. Like I said, we will be back on Tuesday with another new episode. Until then, see ya.